Finally, in order to use our words well, we have to make sure that we are using words ethically. And one of the key things that we need to remember about the principles of communication is that communication is irreversible. And so we should be accountable for the long and short-term effects of our communication. That is what can make us ethical speakers. So under this umbrella of speaking ethically, let's talk about speaking civilly and incivility. So civility is when we are speaking to one another in kind terms and we are expressing our thoughts and ideas to one another. And incivility occurs when a person deviates from established social norms, so they deviate from that civility, and it can take many different forms. So incivility can occur in the form of insults, bragging, bullying, gossiping, swearing, deception, defensiveness. The list goes on and on. And many have said that society is becoming less and less civil, when in fact it's just becoming more different. And that brings us to the idea of polarizing language. Polarizing language refers to language that presents people, ideas, and situations as polar opposites. And it often exaggerates differences and overgeneralizes. And oftentimes, polarizing language happens around quarrels and controversies. And these quarrels and controversies can narrow our vision. So in order to speak ethically, we need to avoid polarizing language by keeping an open mind and an open vocabulary so that we can recognize when this polarizing language is creeping up on us. And if we can manage to avoid that polarized language, we can often avoid polarized thinking and allow new information into our minds, which could help us to better understand something and to better advocate for our positions. Another piece of this idea of speaking ethically is swearing. And swearing is a really interesting part of using our words well, because there's two main different kinds of swearing. There is social swearing versus annoyance swearing. So people engage in social swearing to either create social bonds or just for impression management. So if someone wants to seem like they are cool or attractive, they might use more curse words than the average person because curse words are cool these days, right? And generally speaking, while curse words are being seen as more and more socially acceptable, right? For example, you can use more curse words on TV today than you ever could before. But generally speaking, there is more of a social taboo against women swearing versus men swearing. But in addition to social swearing, there's also annoyance swearing. Annoyance swearing provides us with a sense of relief. So, for example, when you stub your toe and you let out a curse word. And people often use it to manage stress and tension, and it can sometimes be used as an alternative to physical aggression even, right? And swearing has also been demonstrated to be cathartic. So there was actually a study conducted where a group of scientists had two different groups of people stick their hands into buckets of ice water. And one group was the control group, so they just stuck their hand in and let the ice cool their skin, and it ended up being fairly painful, right? Ice, having our temperature lowered that much can be very painful. So the one group just had their hand in the bucket, and the other group had their hand in the bucket of ice, but they were allowed to swear. And both groups were supposed to measure the level of pain that they were feeling in their submerged arm. And the interesting part is that the group that was allowed to swear reported feeling less pain than the group that simply had their hand in the bucket of ice. And so swearing has that really cathartic that cathartic feeling, and it allows us to release our emotions in that way. So it's actually really interesting, the role that swearing can have in both our intrapersonal communication as well as interpersonal communication. And then finally, when we are using our words ethically, we have to have a certain level of accountability. So as an ethical speaker and a critical listener, it's important for us to be able to distinguish between facts, inferences, and judgments. In other words, facts and opinions, right? So facts are conclusions that are based on direct observation or group consensus. So facts are verifiable. Inferences are conclusions that are based on thoughts or speculation, but not direct observation. So less verifiable. And judgments, the least verifiable of them all, are expressions of approval or disapproval that are completely subjective, opinions, right? And so we have to be able to differentiate between these facts and these inferences and judgments, because if we as a speaker, as a communicator, are presenting an opinion as a fact, that is going to lower our credibility, right? And we are not being accountable and ethical speakers in that instance, because our opinion about something is not verifiable, right? We have to be able to present facts about something in order for it to be verifiable. It's based on direct observation, right? And whenever I think of the differences between fact and opinion, I think of this short little clip from the Pixar movie Inside Out, where the characters are on the train of thought and somebody knocks over a box of facts and a box of opinions, and they get all mixed up. And Joy, the character with the blue hair in the green dress here, says, "Oh no, all these facts and opinions look so similar," as they're all spread out and mixed together. And Bing Bong, the pink character in the image on the screen here, starts scooping up all of these facts and opinions and putting them into random boxes and saying, "Don't worry, it happens all the time." And he's saying that, like, we conflate facts and opinions all the time, and we need to be careful not to do so in order to be ethical speakers. So when we want to use our words well, we need to be sure that we are using our words ethically by communicating civilly, avoiding polarizing language, being careful with our swearing, and making sure that we are accountable.